Hi, babies. All right, chapter 19. As the guests move outside to watch the fireworks, the main hall emptied and the lights dimmed. Ernesto and Miguel descended the staircase into the empty hall. Soon the party will move across town for my sunrise spectacular, Ernesto said. Miguel, you must come to the show. You will be my guest of honor. Miguel's eyes lit up. You mean it? Of course, my boy. Miguel's chest filled with joy, then deflated. He lifted his shirt, revealing his now skeletal ribs, to Ernesto. I can't. I have to go home before sunrise, he said sadly. I really do need to get you home, Ernesto said. He plucked a marigold petal from a vase and held it in front of Miguel. It has been an honor. I am sorry to see you go, Miguel. I hope you die very soon. He caught himself. You know what I mean, Miguel. I give you my... We had a deal, chamaco, shouted a voice from the shadows. Miguel and Ernesto looked into the darkness, but saw no one. Who are you? What is the meaning of this? Ernesto asked. From out of the dark, Hector approached, still dressed as Frida Kahlo. Oh, Frida, Ernesto said. I thought you couldn't make it. Hector yanked off his wig and colorful frock. You said you'd take back my photo. You promised, Miguel. Hector stepped closer to them. Miguel backed into Ernesto's arms. Ernesto rose to his feet and placed his hands protectively on Miguel's shoulders. He leaned down to whisper, You know this, man? I just met him tonight. He told me he knew you. Hector stepped forward with the photo, and Ernesto immediately recognized him. Hector? He stammered. Hector ignored him. Please, Miguel, put my photo up. He pushed the photo into Miguel's hands, but Ernesto intercepted it. He looked from the picture to the faded gray skeleton that stood before him. Hector looked away, as if embarrassed by his appearance. Ernesto stood there stunned. My friend, you're being forgotten, Ernesto said. And whose fault is that? Hector snapped. Hector, please, said Ernesto. Those were my songs that you took, my songs that made you famous. What? Miguel asked. If I'm forgotten, it's because you never told anyone that I wrote them. That's crazy, Miguel interjected. Ernesto wrote all his own songs. Hector looked hard at the singer. You want to tell him, or should I? Hector, I never meant to take credit, Ernesto said. We made a great team, but you died, and I had only sang your songs because I wanted to keep a part of you alive. Oh, how generous, Hector said sarcastically. You really did play together? Miguel said. Look, I didn't want to fight about it. I just want you to make it right. Miguel, can you put my photo up? Hector, Ernesto said softly. And I can cross over the bridge. I can see my girl, Hector said. Ernesto gazed at the photo, deliberating. Remember what you told me the night I left? Said Hector. That was a long time ago, said Ernesto. We drank together, and you told me you would move heaven and earth for your amigo. Well, I'm asking you to do that now. Heaven and earth? Asked Miguel. Like in the movie? What? Said Hector. That's Don Hidalgo's toast in the movie El Camino a Casa. I'm talking about my real life, Miguel, Hector said. No, it's in there, look, Miguel said, pointing to the movie clip being shown across the room. Don Hidalgo was in the middle of his speech to the peasant Ernesto. Never were truer words spoken. This calls for a toast to our friendship. I would move heaven and earth for you, mi amigo. But in the movie, said Miguel, Don Hidalgo poisons the drink. He was starting to put the clues together. Salud! Shouted Don Hidalgo from the fill. The two men drank. Then Ernesto's character spit his poison out. "Poison!" he shouted, and the men tussled. Hector looked from the film to Ernesto standing in front of him. His mind raced. That night, Ernesto, the night I left. He remembered it well. They had been on tour, but he had missed his family too much, so he had packed up his songbook and grabbed his guitar case. "You want to give up now?" Ernesto asked. "Then when we're this close to reaching our dream?" "This was your dream," young Hector said. "You'll manage." "I can't do this without your songs, Hector," Ernesto said, reaching for Hector's suitcase. "I'm going home, Ernesto," Hector said. "Hate me if you want, but my mind is made up." Ernesto had grown impatient, but he composed himself and switched on a charming smile. "Oh, I would never hate you," he said. "If you must go, then I'm sending you off with a toast." The singer poured a couple of drinks and handed one to Hector. "To our friendship. I would move heaven and earth for you, mi amigo. Salud." They both drank. Ernesto had walked Hector to the train station, but when Hector stumbled, Ernesto simply took his suitcase. Hector had thought the pain in his stomach was from something he had eaten. "Perhaps it was that chorizo, my friend," young Ernesto said. "Or something I drank," Hector said, snapping back to the present. "I woke up dead." He directed a steely gaze at Ernesto. "You poisoned me. You're confusing movies with reality, Hector," Ernesto assured him. Suddenly, visions of Ernesto's betrayal flashed before Hector like old film clips on a continuous loop. Hector remembered that as he had lain collapsed on the cold street, his suitcase had been opened. A hand had reached in and stolen his songbook. "All this time, I thought it was just bad luck," Hector said. "I never thought you might have, that you—" He clenched his jaw, then lunged at Ernesto, tackling him to the ground. "Hector!" Miguel shouted. "How could you?" Hector yelled at Ernesto. "Security! Security!" cried Ernesto. Miguel looked on in shock as the two men scuffled on the floor. He struggled to understand everything Hector had said about the toast, the songbook, and waking up dead. Could it be true? Could Ernesto have poisoned Hector? "You took everything away from me," Hector shouted as security guards rushed in. He resisted as they pulled him off Ernesto, but it was no use. "You rat!" "Have him taken care of. He's not well," Ernesto ordered. "I just wanted to go back home," Hector cried. Miguel felt a lump in his throat as the guards dragged Hector out of the room. "No, no, no!" Miguel was left alone with Ernesto. His mind raced as he tried to figure out what to do next. "I apologize. Where were we?" "You were going to give me your blessing," Miguel said, unsure after everything he'd just heard. Was his great-great-grandfather responsible for Hector's death? "Yes, sí," Ernesto said. He plucked a marigold petal, but hesitated. "Miguel, my reputation, it is very important to me. I would hate to have you think—" "That you murdered Hector for his songs?" asked Miguel, a knot growing in his stomach. "You don't think that, do you?" No, everyone knows you're the good guy," Miguel said, but doubt had set in, and it oozed in his voice. Ernesto abruptly shoved the photo of Hector into his suit pocket. "Papa Ernesto, my blessing?" asked Miguel. Ernesto crumpled the marigold petal. "Security!" he shouted. His guards appeared at the doorway. "Take care of Miguel. He'll be extending his stay." The guards grabbed Miguel by the shoulder. Miguel's face burned with anger. "What? But I'm your family!" he yelled. He couldn't believe what was happening. "And Hector was my best friend," Ernesto said coldly. Miguel went pale. You did murder him. Success doesn't come for free, Miguel. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes to seize your moment. I know you understand. Okay, that's it for today. What's gonna happen next? I wanna know! I love you. Good night, my girls.